One day, I made a big mistake. I asked my mom and dad for a baby brother.
Well, it's too bad we don't have Craig sleeping. It would make a nice family picture.
My parents were both teachers, so as soon as they could, they shipped me off to school. I used to go part-time, and the rest of the day I would do things like watch my favorite TV show at that point, which was Mr. Dressup. I had the largest collection of comics I think possible. Actually, I didn't have a comic hero, to tell you the truth. When I was growing up, I think the only hero which I really had was my older brother. The time that it really hit me, how different my life was compared to the lives of these children, was the brick kiln.
The children here told Craig how they had been leased by their poverty-stricken parents as collateral. As bonded laborers working to repay the loans, they are forced to live here, earning a pittance. The bosses add the cost of food and board, so the debt is never repaid, but passed on from parent to child.
Can you ask him his age? Was he born on the compound in the brick kiln?
Yes, there, from the beginning.
Yes. Has he ever gone to school?
क्या तू स्कूल कभी गया है? स्कूल कभी गया है?
No.
No, yet.
The children in the brick kiln were the children who I think moved me the most. These children knew, the children as young as 5, 6, and 7 years old knew that for the rest of their lives they'd be working here in the brick kiln, that they knew that generation to generation this debt would be carried, and even the day which they died, they would live and they would work on this brick kiln.
How many hours does he work a day?
12 hours a day.
12 hours.
I couldn't promise him that I would put him in my suitcase and take him back to Canada. I couldn't promise him a better life. But the one thing that I can promise the children who I meet with is that I will take their stories and I will tell them to anyone who's willing to listen.
He does not know what a school is at all. Has he ever been off the brick kiln?
No, he has never been outside.
He's never been outside school?
When I was 5 years old, not only did I have no idea that children my age didn't go to school,
Is that your new suit?
I had no idea that there was a world outside my neighborhood.
Pocket here. This pocket, I can't use it.
No?
At that age, you assume everyone is exactly the same as you are. There are people who live in another city. What's it like? You know, it must be strange. Never mind in another country halfway around the world.
I think I'm good at it.
Bandukaro, Bandukaro. Bandukaro, Bandukaro. Bandukaro, Bandukaro.
Kela Satyarthi is the chairman of the South Asian Coalition on Child Servitude, SACS. One of SACS' roles is to organize raids to free children from bondage. Often children are working in factories under almost inhumane conditions that rival those of slavery.
We have guaranteed free and compulsory primary education for all the children up to the age of 14. We have also guaranteed that no child up to the age of 14 would be engaged in any sort of hazardous work. कहने को तो हम दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा गणतंत्र हैं। 5.5 करोड़ बच्चे आज गुलामी की जिंदगी जी रहे हैं।
Very few people are willing to conduct raids on these factories because the carpet mafia is notorious for its violence. two of Kielish's colleagues have been killed while conducting raids on factories. I was not able to attend the raid because I was white, and therefore I would draw too much attention to the crowd. Many of the children had been held as virtual slaves, away from their families, friends, and childhood. Many of the children had been given by their parents, used as collateral for loans. Others had never even received a penny for their labor.
It's very unfortunate that you were not there, but it was a very successful thing. We have been able to liberate 19 children.
So how many did you expect for them?
Something like that.
So what's the master plan now? The children have been freed and we want to reunite them with the parents. But the village is quite far away.
Hopefully tomorrow we will see the reunion of the mothers with their children.
In many ways, my brother Mark is the reason why I got involved. And, you know, I'm very lucky to have him. And when he was younger, he was involved in environmental issues. And I still remember when I was 8 years old, going to a school with him, and he'd give me the petition, he'd explain it all to me, and I'd have to repeat what he said. He was the first one that opened my eyes to human rights issues. The children that Kalish rescued were going home. They seemed traumatized and anxious to be reunited with their families who they hadn't seen for 3 years. Families who had been tricked into sending their children into bondage. They described the abuse they faced, how when they made a simple error, they would be humiliated and beaten.
He is suffering from malnutrition, and most of these children suffer from lung diseases because of continuous inhaling of woolen dust. When we went to rescue these children yesterday, we found that the entire place was full of woolen dust. There was no proper ventilation. It was extremely unhygienic to the children. There was no even proper lighting. But these children have to work since morning till late evening, and they were given only just one square meal a day.
And the train ride back to the village.
Some train.
That was the drive back to the village. We were supposed to take a train, that didn't work out. Oh.
I think I have driven back like this a couple of 100 times.
So how many children in total have you returned to their families and relatives?
Well, so far we have liberated about 30,000 children in all these 15 years of time.
By the time we arrived at Munilal's village, it was already dark.
So now we are in the village of Ramavtar. These are the villages which don't have any light, no electricity at all. Many of them have never seen a tube light or a bulb in their life. There's no question of telephone. Most of them have no idea of telephones. Most of them have never been to any hospital. There is no hospital. There is no approach road. There is nothing.
Even though it was sad saying goodbye to Munilal, a new friend, I was happy to again see him with his parents and his siblings and in the embrace of his mother. Through their desperate poverty, they had been forced to send him into a life of slavery, but I knew now they would never again make that mistake.
दे दो लेकिन क्या इसको भी दे दो अपने हाथ से खिला दो अपने हाथ से. He says that it was very bad and I saw my mother in dreams and she also said the same thing that I saw you in dream.
Seeing children freed from bondage was very important for Craig. His reason for coming to India in the first place had been reading an article in a Toronto newspaper about the murder of another freed carpet worker who had been speaking out. Iqbal Masih was 12 when he was killed, the same age as Craig.
A young boy from Pakistan named Iqbal Masih told the world how at the age of 4 he was sold into slavery for less than $16.
Inspired by Iqbal Masih, Craig had started speaking out about child labor even before he went to India. With a group of friends, he founded an organization called Free the Children.
It is a youth group dedicated to the elimination of child labor and the exploitation of children. You may be thinking, well, you're only 12 years old. This is a big problem. What can you do to help? First, I would like to say, being 12 years old is no excuse. No one has a good enough excuse for ignoring these child workers' problems. We also have a fundraising campaign in which we are trying to raise $10,000 for these children. Who will help the children if we don't? Thank you very much.
The board has just voted and we'll donate $5,000 to your cause right off the top. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Our union will match the $5,000 if the Fed is better.
A little shocked is an understatement there. I honestly thought that I was going to faint. I'm not joking. I honestly did.
Let's let the bidding begin.
बचल हो जाएगा
और एक कंबल
हाँ एक कंबल एक चादर
I wonder if any of the children that we dropped off a couple days ago have arrived here yet.
After they've met their families again, the rescued bonded laborers come here for up to 6 months of vocational training and psychological counseling. The training gives them a chance at a future.
So he is that unfortunate boy who has been branded with red hot iron rods by his master on 1st of November's night because he helped freeing his younger brother and another friend of him. He was caught. His hands and legs were bound with rope and branded with red hot iron rods several places. That you can see, also in the neck. He was in such a severe trauma, he was not speaking a single word, not crying, not smiling, no emotions, no feelings, but only after 3 weeks of continuous psychotherapy, he was able to speak.
What was his first word?
First word, he started, somebody saw that he is singing a song sitting there in the middle of it.
Could he sing the song?
Yeah.
Yeah?
वो गाना गाना तुम जरा वही जो तुम गाते हो
जीना है हाँ जीना है तो हंस के जियो में पल भी रोना ना.
If you wanted to live with a smile, live with love, don't cry, don't shed your tears. There are storms, there are disasters in the life, there are ups and downs, but don't shed your tears, smile.
Amid the splendor of the presidential palace, Jean Chrétien was officially welcomed to India, and he quickly stepped on the...
Foreign business is attracted by cheap labor. Craig wanted to take Canadian Prime Minister Jean Chrétien to the street to talk to a child who has to work to survive. But the Prime Minister's office said he was too busy with important meetings. So Craig decided to hold his own press conference.
So I thought the child labor was more of hidden off in the dark factories, and the police just basically didn't have the political will wasn't there to go seek out and rescue the children. But for example, in Nepal, I found that basically it's quite openly practiced, as in when I was going to see one of the NGO schools, just driving down the street, you could see the children working as the street vendors. You could see the children breaking bricks by the side of the road. You could see the children working as tempo helpers, which is actually a type of taxi. The children hang on to the back to collect the money from the people and often fall off and get run over. This is all preparing for an interview on this show called Politics and the other interviews that will be coming up, and we're just typing up for the press conference, and this is going to be an all-nighter. Okay. By the way, that means yes. And they're shaking their head like that.
No! Yeah, that means yes.
Like this, right? So like this? Yeah, okay.
That means yes, that means no, and that means okay.
Okay, what does this mean?
This means yes.
So what else can the youth of Canada and the youth of India do together to improve the conditions, to end child labor, to end the exploitation of children?
What else?
What do we want our governments to do? What do we want the businesses to do? What do we want ourselves to do? What do you want to do?
I call for the total boycott of buying goods made by child labor, like carpets, garments, etc. I also appeal to you to look for Ragmark's label, which guarantees that adult labor is employed in making these carpets. I also urge the Prime Minister of India to seriously look into child labor problems and use his good offices for total elimination of child labor.